FIBA. Hold on, coaching staff. Bruh, if I read this article and Stephanie White is on this staff, if Stephanie White is stalking Caitlin Clark around team to team, I'm about to lose it. I'm about to lose it. She better not be on this final coaching roster. I don't got time. I don't have time.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need to talk. Because the latest update from USA Basketball has the internet spiraling, and not in a small way. This isn't just another roster announcement. This isn't just another assistant coach added to the staff. The reaction tells you everything. The temperature around this situation? Boiling. So here's the headline. Caitlin Clark finally gets her opportunity with Team USA, a fresh environment, a new stage, a chance to step away from the intensity of her rookie season with the Indiana Fever, and fans immediately zoom in on one thing, the coaching staff, and specifically the inclusion of Stephanie White. Now, let's slow this down, because what fans are reacting to isn't some secret plot. It's emotion, it's recency bias, it's unresolved frustration from a long, chaotic rookie season. Caitlin's first year in the WNBA was loud, it was physical, it was messy, it was historic. And through all of that, there were questions about rotations, adjustments, timeout management, and how she was being used offensively. So when fans see a familiar coaching face pop up again in a new setting, they don't react calmly. They react like, wait, we're doing this again? That's not a conspiracy, that's fan PTSD. Let's be real about what's actually happening here. USA Basketball builds coaching staffs based on experience, relationships, system continuity, and familiarity with high-level play. Assistant roles aren't about chasing individual players around, they're about building a cohesive program structure. But in the middle of a hypercharged Caitlin Clark media cycle, everything feels personal, and that's the real story. Caitlin Clark is not just another player in this moment. She's the center of gravity in women's basketball conversation. Every move around her feels amplified. Every decision feels intentional. Every overlap feels symbolic. Fans don't see assistant coach appointment. They see unfinished business. That's the emotional lens. Now, let's address the stalker narrative energy floating around online. It's exaggerated, it's dramatic, it's funny in meme form, but it's not grounded in evidence. What it really represents is this. Fans wanted a clean slate. They imagined Team USA as a reset button, new system, new voice, new rhythm, a chance to see Caitlin unleashed in a totally different context. So when that reset doesn't look as clean as expected, disappointment turns theatrical. That's internet culture. But here's the key part. This situation is not about someone trying to hold her back. It's about fit, philosophy, and hierarchy inside a national team structure. And national teams operate differently. You're not building around one rookie. You're managing veterans. You're managing roles. You're managing chemistry. You're managing international expectations. That's not sabotage. That's structure. Now, can structure sometimes clash with a star who thrives in freedom? Absolutely. Caitlin plays best when she has space.
Here it says, Silver, willing to join WNBA negotiations, remains optimistic for a deal. Now, before we even get into the article, we already know Napheesa Collier lied and said that all the players were on the same page when that's not true. Caitlin Clark is not on the same page as y'all. She said y'all need to compromise and games need to be played. You guys are on the opposite end of the coin and y'all don't want to play because y'all got unrivaled and this, and that. And it don't affect y'all. We also seen a bunch of other players on the side of Caitlin Clark. So for you to say players like Deja Kelly and others that want to get this thing done and want to play games. So for you to say everybody's on the same page was a complete lie. Now, here's Adam Silver. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said Tuesday night he is tracking WNBA collective bargaining sessions very closely and that he and Deputy Commissioner Mark Tatum would both be willing to join the prolonged negotiations to finalize a deal. That means when Mark Tatum is getting involved, the guy I put in the thumbnail, it's big business. It's getting serious. Mark Tatum is being inserted into this as well. Here it says, we're integrated at the league office, Silver said ahead of NBA Cup final in Las Vegas. I talk to the people who are at the negotiating table on a daily basis, and I've said before, we, the NBA, WNBA collective, acknowledge that our players deserve to be paid significantly more than they have so far based on the increased success of the league, and it's just a question
of and trust. when she's empowered to read, react, and fire without hesitation, when she's orchestrating instead of waiting. So the real question isn't, is someone following her? The real question is, will this coaching environment maximize her strengths? That's a basketball question, not a conspiracy question. And it's fair. Because fans watched every Fever game. They saw the blitzes, they saw the physicality, they saw the learning curve, they saw the growth. So of course they're protective. But here's what gets lost in the noise. Caitlin Clark is not fragile. She doesn't need rescuing. She doesn't need saving from assistant coaches. She needs reps. She needs experience. She needs different systems to test her adaptability. And if anything, this situation might be a proving ground. Because if she thrives in this environment, if she commands the floor, builds chemistry, and produces under international pressure, the narrative flips instantly. Then it becomes, she can succeed anywhere. That's power. Now, let's talk about the bigger emotional layer here. Fans feel like Caitlin has faced resistance at every stage. Physical defense in college, Olympic roster debates, salary discussions, veteran hierarchy dynamics, rookie scrutiny. So when something even slightly controversial happens, it feels like, here we go again. But intensity does not equal orchestration, and disagreement does not equal sabotage. What we're actually watching is the tension between generational momentum and institutional tradition. USA Basketball has a long history, a system-first identity, a program-over-personality culture. That's not anti-star, it's just how they operate. Caitlin Clark represents modern acceleration, social media gravity, individual brand power, rapid growth. When those two forces meet, friction is normal. It doesn't mean anyone is plotting. It means expectations are colliding. Now, here's the part nobody wants to admit. If Caitlin dominates under this staff, all this noise disappears. If she struggles, the noise gets louder. That's sports. The drama exists because she matters. And the reality is this. Assistant coaches don't dictate everything. Rotations depend on matchups. Minutes depend on performance. National teams are deep. If she earns the trust, she plays. If she takes over games, she closes games. That's how elite environments work. The emotional energy online makes it feel like a psychological thriller. In reality, it's a competitive roster with layered dynamics. And here's the biggest difference between conspiracy talk and reality. Conspiracy assumes control is being exercised over her. Reality should
now of finding a meeting of the minds in terms of what is a fair deal. It's going to require compromise on both sides. That sounds a lot like what Caitlin Clark said and nothing like what you other players have been saying. Adam Silver is siding with Caitlin Clark. Make no mistake about it. Make no mistake about it. It's going to require compromise on both sides. On October 21st, Silver riled up WNBA Players Union when on the divisive subject of revenue sharing, he said on Today, and by the way, I have to get to what Breanna Stewart said after this. I got a quote and a video of her, so don't you go nowhere. He said on Today, I think the share isn't the right way to look at it because there's so much more revenue in the NBA. I think you should look at absolute numbers in terms of what they are making. They're going to get a big increase in this cycle of collective bargaining, and they deserve it. The WNBPA responded that day with an Instagram headline. They're taking shots on social media. Don't want to share? At Adam Silver. Nearly 2 months later, there have been separate 30-day and 40-day extensions to the collective bargaining agreement, with still little movement on that same revenue share issue. The players want approximately 30% of league revenue, while the WNBA reportedly prefers the players receive roughly 15%, a gap that sources still call significant, with only a little movement in recent days. So, here Adam Silver also said, here it says,
she's evolving into someone who controls the game herself. If she felt boxed in before, she's not that same rookie now. She's more confident, more assertive, more vocal, more aware of her value. And that changes everything. Because no matter who's holding the clipboard, players at her level eventually dictate their own gravity. So instead of asking, why is this happening to her? The better question is, how will she respond? That's the storyline. Not stalking, not sabotage, not secret meetings, just pressure, expectations, legacy building. And let's be honest, if this Team USA run goes well, it won't be remembered for who was on the bench. It'll be remembered for who owned the floor. The internet wants a villain. The fans want a redemption arc. The commentators want drama. But basketball is simpler than that. 5 players, 40 minutes, adjustments, execution. If Caitlin Clark is as transformative as many believe, and the ratings say she is, then no assistant coach is stopping that wave. The drama might trend, the memes might fly, the tension might simmer, but the game decides everything. And that's where this story will actually be written. Not in speculation, not in conspiracy, not in narrative, on the court.
Because what's happening right now isn't just about a coaching appointment. It's not just about a roster, and it's definitely not just about internet reactions. It's about power shifts in women's basketball. When Caitlin Clark entered the league with the Indiana Fever, she didn't just join a franchise. She altered the economic temperature of the entire sport. Ticket prices spiked, television numbers jumped, road arenas sold out, conversations expanded beyond the usual basketball circles. That kind of impact creates pressure, not just on her, on institutions, on leadership, on systems that were built long before she arrived. So when USA Basketball announces staff decisions and fans instantly analyze them through the Caitlin Clark lens, it tells you something important. She's no longer just a player in the system. She's a variable the system has to account for. That doesn't mean she runs it. That doesn't mean she overrides it. But it does mean every move around her is amplified in a way most athletes never experience. And amplification changes perception. Let's talk about expectations. National team environments are built on hierarchy. Veterans first. Experience matters. Chemistry matters. Continuity matters. Coaches lean on familiarity because international play is ruthless. There's no long adjustment runway. There's no 82-game rhythm. It's quick preparation, high stakes, short tournaments. Now, insert a generational rookie into that formula, someone who plays fast, shoots deep, demands defensive attention the moment she crosses half court. That creates a strategic question. Do you mold her into the existing system, or do you tweak the system to unlock her? That's not controversy, that's philosophy. And fans, understandably, want the second option. They've watched her stretch defenses beyond traditional spacing. They've watched defenders pick her up 30 feet from the basket. They've seen how gravity alone shifts coverage schemes. So when there's even a hint that she might not be fully unleashed, concern spikes. But here's what often gets overlooked. Great players develop through friction. Every star has a phase where they have to prove their style translates at every level. International play is different from the WNBA. Defensive schemes are different. Physicality is different. Officiating tendencies are different. Pace can vary wildly. If Caitlin adapts and thrives, that strengthens her legacy. If she faces resistance and still finds ways to create impact, that strengthens her resilience. Either outcome builds growth. Now, zoom out. The discourse around her sometimes frames everything as a battle. Her versus veterans, her versus coaches, her versus the league. But that framing ignores something crucial. She's also learning how to navigate power dynamics. When you're a rookie with massive visibility, you can't just rely on talent. You have to manage perception. You have to manage relationships. You have to manage expectations. That's leadership development. And Team USA environments are leadership incubators. Being around seasoned professionals, seeing how they prepare, seeing how they communicate, seeing how they adjust mid-game, that exposure accelerates maturity. The narrative online may center on tension, but inside the gym, it's likely centered on execution, film sessions, defensive rotations, off-ball movement, late-game scenarios. And that's where careers are shaped, not on social media timelines. Still, we can't ignore why emotions run high. There's a generational shift happening in women's basketball, a new wave of fans, a new wave of marketing, a new wave of visibility. With that comes friction between tradition and momentum. Institutions move carefully, fan bases move quickly. That speed gap creates frustration. When fans feel like momentum isn't being maximized, they interpret caution as resistance. But caution can also be strategy, because here's the reality. If you build everything around one player too quickly, you risk instability. Sustainable growth requires balance. Yes, Caitlin Clark is transformative, but the ecosystem includes veterans, other rising stars, coaching philosophies, and long-term development plans. The smartest organizations figure out how to integrate impact without destabilizing culture. And that's likely what's happening here. Integration, not obstruction. Now, let's examine the psychological angle. When you're under constant spotlight, you can either shrink or expand. Every possession gets dissected. Every shooting slump becomes a headline. Every rotation decision sparks debate. Some players struggle under that. Others sharpen. From what we've seen, Caitlin leans into the moment. She doesn't avoid big shots. She doesn't shy away from pressure. She's built her identity on range and confidence. That mentality translates internationally, but it also demands adaptability. There will be games where she's not the primary scoring option. There will be games where defensive assignments change her rhythm. There will be games where she plays fewer minutes than fans expect. The question isn't whether that happens. The question is how she responds when it does.
Does she stay aggressive? Does she impact the game through passing? Does she stretch defenses even without high shot volume? Those are star evolution checkpoints, and if she clears them, the narrative shifts from "is she being maximized" to "she can dominate in any structure." That's a powerful transformation. Another layer people underestimate is trust building. Trust isn't automatic in national team settings. It's earned through practice intensity, defensive commitment, film study habits, and adaptability. If coaches see her locking in defensively, rotating correctly, communicating actively, that builds credibility beyond scoring. And credibility earns freedom. Freedom leads to expanded roles. Expanded roles lead to influence. Influence leads to legacy. This process takes time. The internet doesn't like time. But basketball careers are long arcs, not single moments. Let's also talk about team chemistry. Veterans on Team USA have sacrificed before. They've adjusted roles. They've accepted bench minutes. They've adapted to younger stars emerging. They understand cycles. If Caitlin demonstrates respect for that structure while still asserting her skill set, that balance strengthens locker room cohesion, and cohesive teams win tournaments. Winning silences noise. Now, imagine this scenario. Caitlin hits a deep three in a tight international semifinal. The arena erupts, teammates celebrate, the bench explodes. In that moment, no one remembers online debates about assistant coaches. They remember the shot. That's how narratives collapse. Performance overrides speculation. And if she strings together multiple high-impact games, the conversation transforms into something bigger. She elevated Team USA's spacing. She changed how opponents defended. She proved her game translates globally. That's global validation. It's easy to get caught in micro-drama, but macro legacy is built through sustained excellence. Another angle worth considering is strategic growth. If she experiences moments of limitation now, she'll study them, she'll adjust, she'll refine off-ball movement, she'll sharpen defensive anticipation, she'll diversify scoring angles. Sometimes constraints force creativity, and creative growth makes players unstoppable long-term. We've seen this pattern in other sports. Early friction, adjustment, breakthrough, dominance. The key variable is mindset, and so far her mindset appears wired for challenge. So instead of viewing this situation as conflict, it might be more accurate to view it as calibration, calibrating expectations, calibrating roles, calibrating influence. Calibration isn't glamorous, but it's foundational. Because when her prime years arrive, fully matured skill set, polished decision-making, refined leadership, those early calibrations will have shaped the foundation. The public conversation may focus on tension, but the deeper story is evolution. And evolution is rarely smooth. It's iterative, it's uncomfortable, it requires humility and confidence simultaneously. That's the phase she's entering now, a phase where talent meets structure, where hype meets system, where individual brand meets institutional culture. The outcome of that intersection determines trajectory. If she emerges from this environment stronger, more adaptable, more respected internally, her long-term ceiling expands. And that's the real headline. Not assistant coaches, not online reactions, not speculative narratives. Growth. Because in elite sports, the players who transcend aren't just talented, they're versatile within multiple frameworks. If she can command a WNBA offense and integrate seamlessly into a national team system, that dual capacity becomes rare, and rare becomes historic. So yes, fans are watching closely. Yes, debates are loud. Yes, every staffing move feels magnified. But underneath it all, something bigger is unfolding. A young star navigating the bridge between individual phenomenon and institutional integration. That bridge determines longevity. And if she crosses it successfully, this moment won't be remembered as controversy. It'll be remembered as transition. The transition from promising rookie to established cornerstone, from headline generator to championship contributor, from cultural wave to sustained force. That's the journey unfolding. And journeys are messy before they're magnificent. The noise will continue, the opinions will clash, the speculation will trend, but when the ball tips and the clock starts, everything simplifies. Spacing, reads, timing, execution. That's where influence becomes undeniable. And if Caitlin Clark owns those moments on the international stage, the conversation won't revolve around who's on the sideline. It'll revolve around who controlled the game. That's how legacies are written. Not in reaction threads, on hardwood, under pressure, in silence between dribbles before deep three leaves her hands. That's where this story ultimately resolves. And that's why the real focus shouldn't be fear or suspicion. It should be anticipation. Because if this phase sharpens her instead of slowing her, the next chapter could be even louder than the last. And if that happens, all this tension will look like just another stepping stone on the path to something much bigger.